I'm Dave once again with Operation Eagle's Wings, honoring all who served and leaving no one behind. In Bend, Oregon, on Wells Acres, there's a project called Home of the Brave. It's a project by Central Oregon Veterans Outreach, and it allows 6 veterans to be housed in transitional housing.
Transitional housing, yes.
Rex Auker is with COVO. What's your position with COVO?
My job is case manager and housing manager now that we're acquiring more housing. My primary responsibility is Home of the Brave and the transitional program we have here.
Now, the reason we're here today is Home Depot and some volunteers are doing some remodeling here. Like right behind us, they're putting on a roof to a deck.
Yeah. Home Depot is, they have a Home Depot Foundation, a charitable foundation, which is nationwide, and they provided $3,000 of materials for us. And the local Home Depot stores have provided the volunteer labor to do projects here. And at another house, we have a duplex for female veterans. They'll be putting up a fence and doing some other things over there for us.
So they're going to actually be doing some work tomorrow and finishing this up.
Yes, they'll be finishing things up here, and then next week over at Wichita. They've called this project Celebration of Service, and it was particularly aimed this year at veterans projects.
So what exactly are the Home Depot folks doing? They're adding a roof to the deck, and they're also doing some interior work.
Yes. Here we've done mostly repairs and enhancement. There was we needed to move a door inside to allow some privacy, better privacy for one of the residents. Putting the cover over our deck here so that the deck can be more usable throughout the year. Our patio door wasn't working too well, and they just popped the old one out and gave us a new one.
Well, good for them. This is transitional housing. 6 guys are here. What happens to the guys? How long do they stay here, and what happens to them after they leave here, and what decides when they leave?
Well, we're operating under a grant from the Veterans Administration called a Grant Per Diem program, and to be eligible for housing here, it needs to be a veteran who has other than a dishonorable discharge, and they can be here for up to 2 years. They also have to be homeless veterans. Okay. So we meet most of our guys at the local shelters, Bethlehem Inn, Shepherd's House, and offer them the opportunity to come in here. There are 3 primary components of the program. One is what we call self-determination, and that's to help them get on their feet, work the personal issues that they may be dealing with that contribute to their homelessness. Sometimes they need to get a driver's license and things like that. And then we start moving towards income enhancement. And right now we're working with a job placement program that COVO offers called Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program to help them to put together a resume and target where they want to do with employment and do an effective job search. And then finally, when they get some money, get some income, then we require them to save at least 50% of their income toward their future housing. And our goal then is to help them to build up the necessary funds and a strategy for getting into permanent housing.
How bad is the need, how great is the need for shelter, for housing for veterans here in Central Oregon?
There's a very significant need, and fortunately through COVO and some other organizations we've been able to address that need, but not fully resolve it yet. At any time there's probably 10 to 15 camps that we know of that are out there that homeless veterans and other homeless folks are staying in. We have the Bethlehem Inn that offers temporary kind of emergency lodging up to 90 days, and Shepherd's House, which also offers some lodging and a program for self-improvement. But the need is there. Another thing that COVO has been able to get into is through community development block grants and neighborhood stabilization programs, we've been able to acquire properties through government grants and funding that we have been able to renovate and make available to veterans. We have a duplex not far from here where 2 women veterans are housed, and we have a house in La Pine that a Iraq veteran just occupied. We have another apartment building with 4 apartments that are under renovation right now, and we've got other things that we're hoping to purchase.
So we've just talked about 4 programs.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a disproportionate share of the homeless that are veterans, and why is that?
There is a disproportionate share. Generally, boy, I can't remember the statistics, but it's about twice as likely for a person, a homeless person, to be a veteran than it is from the normal population. When you consider that at this point, the veterans only represent about 1% of the population, or the active duty military represents only about 1%, that's very significant. Another statistic that I've recently learned about is that there's for suicide, it's about 20% more likely for a veteran to commit suicide than it is the normal population.
Is that because of the psychological trauma that they've experienced overseas and just having to deal with all of the issues, the emotional trauma that they've had to deal with, bring that back home and have to deal with it?
Yes, the combat veterans are particularly vulnerable, and those who are well schooled in these things do attribute a lot of it to combat service. But even the kind of training that a veteran goes through often results in their approaching life and death situations with a little more violent kind of mindset.
So their conclusion, their response because of their training is that's the way, that's an option.
They see it more as an option, yeah. And another factor that was noted is that when veterans do involve themselves in suicide, it's very largely going to be with firearms.
Right. How can people help?
Oh, wow. Some consideration for the veterans, appreciation that they have been in a culture that is quite different than civilian culture. And it's difficult sometimes to step down from the vigilance and the readiness that is required of an effective soldier or sailor and come back into a society that is less attentive to those things, and oftentimes oblivious to the dangers that are out there in the world where the veteran has worked.
If people want to contact Central Oregon Veterans Outreach, COVAR, to help you guys do what you do, how do they do that?
Well, we have an office in the county building. County was kind enough to rent us some office space at the corner of Hill and Lafayette. It's on the second deck of the building where you pick up your county building permits and that sort of thing. I could give you a phone number.
Go right ahead.
You can reach us at 541-383-2793. And folks there can help direct you in ways you can help. We're always open for donations. We do need volunteers. We need clothing and support articles for the folks out in the camps. We have a team that goes out every week to the various camps, takes water and propane and clothing and some food to try to just help them sustain out there. And then when the veteran has decided he or she doesn't want to live that way anymore, there are often times when we can get them into housing, but we'll need furniture and things like that to help them get set up.
Okay, thank you, Rex Auker, with Central Oregon Veterans Outreach.
Okay.
I'm Dave Adams. We are here at the Home of the Brave, rather significant name for this facility, one of the transitional housing facilities that COVAR uses to transition veterans back into normal civilian life. We're here with Jimmy Gilliland, and Jimmy served in the Navy. Jimmy, thank you for the service to your country.
Thank you very much.
He's one of the residents here at Home of the Brave, which is a transitional housing facility that houses 6 men as they're transitioning from homelessness in some cases, from military service to civilian life. And Jimmy, you've been here for a couple of years at Home of the Brave.
Yes.
How does this help you, being here at Home of the Brave?
It stabilizes you, gives you a safe environment, a safe place to live, so then you can get on your feet and work on getting back on your feet and back into society.
So you served in the Navy during the Vietnam War?
During the first Desert Storm.
Okay. What's ahead for Jimmy in the future? What do you want to do?
Permanent housing, and hopefully I'll get back in the workforce. My background is nursing and nursing skills, and I was hoping to get back into that. Through the assisted living homes in the area, there's quite a few.
Okay. Can you share with me, as you came from your service in Desert Storm back into civilian life, what were the challenges for you? We don't have to get very personal here, but what was difficult for you to come back?
Well, I had, at that time, I'd been in the service most of my adult life, so civilian life was very different again, and it's hard to get acclimated, and there didn't seem to be a lot of support at the time.
Mm-hmm. So when you say the civilian life is different, the military life is very regimented. You get up, they feed you, things happen in a certain order,
yes.
And then when you're out, you're just on your own.
Yes, you don't have that support that you had. That's one thing I think most of us miss the most, is the support and teamwork. And then when you get out, a lot of times if you don't have a strong family group, you're pretty much on your own.
What can people do to help?
They can see what veterans need, because there's quite a few veterans out there with families, and they're in poor shape too. See what they need, give encouragement. A big thing was just let them know you care. Let the veterans know you care.
Okay. Jimmy, thank you for the service to your country.
Thank you.
We're here with Jimmy Gilliland, who is one of the residents here at a transitional housing facility in Bend called, rather appropriately, Home of the Brave. I'm Dave Adams, Operation Eagle's Wings, honoring all who served and leaving no one behind.